Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
There it is.
Hey, Ernie.
We'll go ahead and get started shortly. We'll wait for a few more people to drop in. Thank you for being here today. We look forward to getting started.
You know, if I had brought donuts, there might be more people joining.
That would have made a difference.
Yeah.
Let's do virtual donuts.
Virtual donuts, right?
I have a lot of candy. Anybody wants candy? I got a lot of candy.
You could have the attendees put in their address and we could DoorDash donuts to everybody, right? That wouldn't be expensive at all.
Technology.
Exactly, right?
Looks like we have donuts that are virtual. Good morning for those of you who are just joining us. We'll go ahead and get started shortly. We'll give it just a few more minutes.
Yep.
Good morning, everyone. So I think we'll go ahead and get started for the sake of time. Thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for joining the New Mexico's Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce Business Echo program. This will be our third curriculum session, and we look forward to today with Mr. Mark Fidel giving his didactic presentation as well as a case study. So we'll go ahead and hop in. I want to give a brief overview of why this matters. So by using the ECHO model, we're creating a space where IT business owners, professionals, and entrepreneurs can connect with experts and with each other to share strategies, tackle real challenges, and grow together. This isn't about one person teaching and everyone else listening. It's about all of us learning together. Because the truth is, when one of us grows stronger, our network entirely grows stronger. And so this is just a brief agenda, but to go over some housekeeping. This session is being recorded, so please be mindful of what you choose to share. But this is a safe space, so we're all here to learn from each other and to share our experience in our respective fields. Please mute your mic if you're not speaking, as a courtesy to others, and keep the camera on if you could. Use the chat for questions. We do encourage you to do that, as well as be mindful of others overall. Again, we'll lead with a didactic presentation, go into a case discussion, and of course, some collaborative discussion around our case study. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen. As a last note, I would like to ask you all to update your Zoom to show both your name, your first and last, and your agency. If you're not sure how to do this, you want to click the dots or right-click your picture, and there should be a rename option. Perfect. And so I'll go into introductions. Again, I'm Dominic Baca. I am part of our hub team here. I work in our convention and sales, convention and tourism department as a sales representative. And I'm happy to be here. I'll pass it on to Laura as also part of the hub team.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Laura Chavez Sharman, and I am on the membership team, and I work as an engagement project manager.
Thank you, Laura. Mark?
Good morning, Mark Fidel. I'm your subject matter expert today and really looking forward to this opportunity to visit with you all.
Thank you, Mark. Rocky?
Good morning. I'm Rocky Cruz. I'm the Membership Experience Director here with the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce. It's good to have you all and welcome to today's session.
Awesome. Thank you, Rocky. And last but definitely not least.
John Egan with ABQIT. I run R&D specifically related to artificial intelligence.
Thank you, John. Yes, so I think we could go to move on to introductions here in the room. I'll call on our hub team from Project Echo, Roxy Marquez first.
Thank you, Dominic. Good morning, everyone. My name is Roxy Marquez, and I'm a program manager with Project Echo. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxy. Casey?
Hello, my name is Casey Quilliton, and I'm a program specialist at Project Echo. It's nice to see everyone.
Likewise, Casey, thank you for being here. Elliot?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Elliot Padras. I'm a program specialist with Project Echo.
Hey, Elliot. Susanna?
I'm Susanna Jones. I'm a strategic development coordinator with Life Group.
Welcome, Susanna. Thank you. Kudi?
Hi, good morning. My name is Kuri Teran. I'm with the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce as Director of First Impressions, but I'm also here representing UNM, particularly the Native American Studies Department, as a student. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Kudi. Ernie?
Yeah, Ernie Cedarbach, here at the Hispano Chamber, and I'm digging Mark Fidel's look today. I think looking pretty sophisticated. Really looking forward to his discussion because he's really knowledgeable about this stuff. So thanks for doing this, Mark.
Thanks, Ernie.
Thank you, Ernie.
No pressure.
Mireya?
Hi, I'm Mireya Herrera with Outcome Engine.
Welcome, Mireya. Nice to see you. Robert?
Hey, Robert Duran. I work with Apex Solutions, but I am over at UNM right now, and that's actually, I think, where I found this info from.
Great. Awesome. Great. Nice to see you. Thank you. Vedra?
Hello, everybody. My name is Vedra Chavez. I'm with Scale Smart HR. I also have the privilege of serving as the HR consultant for the Hispano Chamber and am one of Mark Fidel's biggest fans. So I'm really excited to be here and learn from him as well.
Thank you, Vedra. And Andrew?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew DiGregorio. I'm the manager of First Impressions with Leadership New Mexico.
Great. Nice to see you, Andrew. Thank you. Awesome. And so we'll go ahead and move into our didactic presentation. Today's topic is Cyber Risk Management Essentials, as you might have seen. Our presenter, as we know now, is Mark Fidel with Fidel Consulting Group. We're very excited to learn more about cybersecurity and what it takes to mitigate that risk. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Mr. Mark Fidel.
Thank you so much. I assume my presentation is showing just fine?
It is.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Good morning, everybody. This is not a presentation that will necessarily leave you feeling good about things. And that's kind of the intent. The idea is to raise awareness about what's going on from a cyber risk perspective. And I've split this presentation into two parts. So this is day one. And if you want to hear the balance of this presentation in day two, that'll be in December. I asked them to revise the schedule, and we're going to do that. So let's jump in. Really, small businesses are increasingly vulnerable to cyber threats for a variety of reasons. Here in New Mexico, here in Albuquerque especially, there's a number of small businesses that are also in the supply chain for the Department of Defense and the Department of Energy because of subcontracts and contracts with larger players in the defense industry and the Department of Energy and ecosystem. 43% of cyber attacks target small businesses. So understanding the critical importance of cybersecurity is essential for safeguarding small business operations, reputation, and customer trust. It's not just your business and your data that is at risk. Potentially, it is the information that you're helping manage of others that you may have in your control. And we'll get into that as we get into the presentation. Let's understand what cyber risks small and medium-sized businesses or SMBs face. 43% of cyber attacks target SMBs. Now, please be mindful that not all of the attacks are intentional or directed at, meaning it's very inexpensive if I were the bad guy for me to send out 25 million emails to email addresses that I've harvested. And each one of those emails has a piece of malware attached to it. And let's say I get 0.1% of a response rate. It's probably not bad. And let's say all of those emails contain ransomware, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Ransomware is just not fun to deal with as a victim. And it's also asymmetric. It's real inexpensive for me as the bad guy to do it. And it's pretty expensive to defend against. And it's expensive to recover from. So it's not a balanced playing field by any means. A lot of small businesses don't have their own IT team. Some of them rely upon the person who's most computer savvy. Some of them rely upon third-party vendors, right? And so it can be a mix of what you're doing as a small business to A, maintain, and then B, defend your computing infrastructure. And I would ask for a show of hands, but maybe we'll get into that in questions. If you took your computer system away today, what would happen to your small business? What would happen to your organization, right? And if you imagine that, then understand how critical it is to keep your computing environment safe and up and running. Average cost of a data breach can be between $120,000 to $200,000. If you have insurance, cyber insurance, which will be the topic of a future conversation, good for you. However, even having to pay for this, even through a policy, means there's downtime involved and you have to recover. And so I don't know of many SMBs that can take a $200,000 hit, either certainly uninsured, and continue to remain viable. So keep that in mind as well. 60% of businesses, SMBs, close after cyber attacks that have been significant. That's not fun, right? And if you think about all of the data that you're managing and the various ways you communicate electronically with vendors, with customers, and your ecosystem, again, imagine taking your computer system away, and then imagine, is your business still viable? Small businesses are prime targets because there's a certain misconception of, well, we're too small to be targeted. And as I stated earlier, not all targeting is intentional, right? An accidental drive-by email campaign where you or one of your employees or colleagues happens to click through on the wrong email is just as devastating as an intentional attack. This misconception creates vulnerabilities as well, and small businesses often lack robust security measures. Now, as you'll see later on in the presentation, I'm not saying you have to spend lots and lots of money to make sure you're defending against it. It is a cost-benefit analysis that you have to go through, and I'll help you understand what that means and how to do it. Cyber attackers target small businesses due to inadequate defenses, right? You're walking down the street and you see a car with a window cracked open. Well, that might be an easier car to get into than one where the windows are up and the doors are locked, and maybe there's a visible preventive measure across the steering wheel. Okay, versus the car that somebody may want to get rid of with the windows down, the keys are in the ignition, and it's idling. Those two extremes. However, cyber criminals are getting better and better at targeting businesses where they know they have insurance. And I'll explain that a little bit later as well. It goes back to the adage of, well, why do you rob banks? Well, that's where the money is. So anyway, statistically, 43% of all cyber attacks are aimed at small businesses. And again, highlights the urgent need for small businesses to strengthen their cybersecurity measures. SMBs are increasingly targeted by cyber criminals due to their typically weaker security measures, as we've talked about. These businesses, however, even though they're small in terms of sales size, revenues, or even employee headcount, may hold valuable data, obviously including customer information and financial records. If you think about a 5-person insurance agency, and that 5-person insurance agency has 1,500 customers, that's a lot of personally identifiable financial and potentially health information that computer system has access to for their customers. So SMBs can serve as entry points for cyber attacks aimed at large organizations. As a bad guy, I can attack Sandia National Labs all day and not have a very good success rate. However, there's a variety of small businesses that are in that supply chain that I might be able to have better luck at. And if I'm a nation state actor, meaning somebody from an adversarial nation is paying for my services and my time, then I'll have time and money to be able to figure out a path. So let's say I don't attack Sandia National Labs directly, but instead I know that a particular orthodontist has a lot of patients whose kids or young adults are family members of people who work at Sandia National Labs. That might be a viable path for me to pursue electronically to get to somebody at Sandia National Labs. Again, not making any of these stories up. It's just it's lack of imagination that leads us to believe that we're not in the targeting sites of bad guys. Cybersecurity risks, first of all, limited IT resources, right? Unless your core competency is IT is something that you do because you have to have computers, you have to have terminals to collect payments, but you may not have a standalone IT department in your organization. And so your IT budgets might be particularly small relative to your revenue stream, okay? Or you're not employing a third-party vendor to help you out, okay? So this lack of resources creates weaknesses in a small business that can be easily exploited by cyber criminals. Lack of knowledge. Just by being here today, you're helping yourself out by wanting to understand what is cybersecurity, right? The absence of cybersecurity knowledge among small business owners leads to underestimating potential threats and risks, leaving them unprepared for cyber attacks, pure and simple. Without proper training, employees may not recognize phishing attempts, PHISING attempts, or other cybersecurity threats. So a broad-scale phishing attempt might start out with "Dear Customer." A spear phishing attempt might start out with "Dear Laura," right? Using the name of the intended victim. And this could lead to increased likelihood of somebody opening that email that has a piece of malware attached to it. And again, supply chain vulnerability. Small businesses become part of a larger supply chain. Their cybersecurity breaches can have ripple effects, compromising security of larger corporations or organizations as well. New Mexico has 2 national labs with significant employment numbers, as well as significant vendor footprints. And all of those vendors, sometime next year, have to be compliant with something called CMMC, if they're working with the Department of Defense. If you're a small, medium-sized business and you're working with the DoD on some level, either as a primary or a subcontractor, then understand that you have responsibilities to make sure you're passing the CMMC compliance standard. Okay. If you have questions about that, let me know. I can direct you to some resources. Reasons attacker choose SMBs. Well, the implication of here's what's at stake. This is what the cost is. We talked about that. This is what happens. 60% of small businesses that close within 6 months of a cyber attack. There also may be regulatory violations, legal fines, and compliance costs that can arise from data breaches. In New Mexico, we have a data breach notification law that indicates if you are subject to a data breach and it exceeds certain thresholds in terms of customer records, third-party records being exposed, then you have an obligation, a legal duty to disclose that to those individuals whose data was disclosed in a certain amount of time. The only entity that is excluded from the data breach notification law is the state of New Mexico itself and its sub-entities. So just keep that in mind. Some of the things that happen can be irreversible: reputation damage due to loss of customer trust, and requirement for cybersecurity certifications to remain competitive. If you're an SMB and you collect card payments, then somewhere along the way, either you or your merchant card services company are responsible for something called, let's see here, sorry, who's that? Give me 1 second here. Try to see what I'm showing here. So I'm still in the presenter view. What are you saying? You're seeing.
Yes. What is it?
So it changed, didn't it? Or not?
No.
It did not change. Okay, sorry about that. Something changed on my screen here, so I just wanted to make sure. All right. Essentially, there's something called the PCI, Payment Card Industry Consortium, and that's Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express. They formed an organization called the Payment Card Industry, and they set the standards by which merchants have to follow in order to accept card payments on their network. Now, the merchant could be, for example, the Hispano Chamber of Commerce, but they may outsource, and hopefully you do, outsource the all of the cybersecurity for that to a merchant services company like Stripe, Clover, Wells Fargo, whatever. Okay. I had the opportunity to work with the state of New Mexico for a number of years on their PCI issues. So the state of New Mexico has 27 to 30 state agencies that collect payment cards for various things. State of New Mexico has one merchant ID, but 27 to 30 agencies that collect it. So that tells me that if any one of those agencies are out of compliance, the entire state of New Mexico is out of compliance. And being out of compliance means that you're subject to fines from PCI through their bank. In this case, it's Wells Fargo. Or the PCI, the payment card industry, can tell Wells Fargo, we're not accepting payments from the state of New Mexico any longer because they can't get in compliance. We helped my former company, RiskSense, we helped the state of New Mexico get back into compliance. And it wasn't inexpensive. It was about, and this is all public information, it was about $460,000 a year. But instead of saying it was $460,000 a year to avoid $60,000 a year in fines, it was spending $460,000 a year to allow the state to continue to accept tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars worth of card payments. Okay. So compliance on various levels. If you're medically oriented, then there's HIPAA, right? There's a variety of things that statutes, either federal or state, that force us to be compliant or be subject to fines or other penalties. Our top threat focus, two things. ransomware and something called BEC, business email compromise. We'll go into these real quick and understand what's at stake here. Essentially, understanding what ransomware is and what a business email compromise attack is like will help you better understand why it's important to do the things that I'm suggesting in this presentation. First of all, ransomware. Let's define ransomware. It's a malicious type of software that prevents users from accessing their computer systems or files or data until a ransom is paid. It operates by encrypting or blocking necessary access points, and it's relatively inexpensive. So my quick example of hostages and ransom, Rocky, I'll use you as an example. If we were to take Rocky hostage, right, and ask for a ransom payment to release Rocky, right, as the kidnapper, I'd have to do a bunch of things. I'd have to keep Rocky safe. I'd have to keep him obviously alive. I'd have to have a place to store him while we're negotiating the ransom. And I'm assuming there's going to be people that'll just clamor to pay your ransom, right?
Expensive.
Absolutely. And you're expensive, right? So it's a lot of work for me as the kidnapper, right? To do all this. It's just really the cost benefit just isn't there. Ransomware is different. I'm going to deploy via maybe an email, a piece of software that goes in and encrypts the data on computer systems in place. To encrypt something means there's a password protecting that data. Except the bad guys have the password, not the good guys. So now as a bad guy, I've encrypted data on all of the chamber's computers, and I'll give you the password if the chamber pays me some money. But the chamber has to pay me money in Bitcoin, right? And because it's probably not easy for most people to pay things by Bitcoin, right? I'll set up an 800 number and a help site to be able to walk you through paying me, the bad guy, the money. All right. By the way, if you're being asked to pay at least one Bitcoin, that's around $103,000 today is the value of one Bitcoin. All right. Just as an example. And so it's asymmetrically expensive. It's very inexpensive for me as a bad guy to do this. In fact, there's services that as a bad guy, I can go out and buy ransomware packages. I can go out and buy email lists and attach the packages to emails and send them out and see what happens, right? Once the ransomware has encrypted the systems, there will be a splash screen that shows up. You can turn off the computer, turn it on, the same splash screen comes up, essentially saying this system is compromised by a certain ransomware. In order to free this system, pay us this amount of Bitcoin. And it could be in, half a Bitcoin, it could be 20 Bitcoin, who knows, whatever they're requiring. The point being is that it's expensive. So do you have a viable backup that you can restore the information from? If the answer is yes, great. Then the kidnappers, the ransom takers, right, the bad guys really don't have a leg to stand on unless they've copied the data off of your system as well. So now there's data in two places, on your computers, that's encrypted, and in the hands of the bad guys, okay? And if you tell the bad guys, I have a backup, I don't need to pay you, and the bad guy says and proves, here's copies of your data, and I'll publicly release this information unless you pay me. Okay, then that changes the dynamics pretty dramatically. The case study gets into this a little bit. Attackers typically target businesses because A, they're more willing to pay to recover essential data. The likelihood of insurance is high, and it increases the potential payout for the attackers. The malicious software demands a sum of money as a condition for regaining access. And if your systems are locked up, you can't do work. You can't receive or send email. You cannot do anything with your computer systems until they've been unencrypted. Common attack methods include phishing emails that trick employees into opening malicious attachments, exploiting weak or reused passwords to gain unauthorized access, and taking advantage of unpatched software vulnerabilities that leave systems exposed. Very briefly, ransomware most ransomware cannot work if there are no vulnerabilities on computer systems to take advantage of. A vulnerability is a function, is an unintended function of most of the time operating systems, but sometimes hardware that wasn't intended by the manufacturer. So when Microsoft releases an update, right? Typically it's a security update. Sometimes it has to do with aesthetics, look and feel, but most of the times it's security update. What Microsoft is doing is patching vulnerabilities in their operating systems. Last night I updated my Apple operating system on my phone and my computer. Some of it was aesthetic, some of it was also security, right? Again, unpatched systems are open for attack. I'll say it that way. All right. Ransom demands, again, 150,000 to 500,000. Average downtime associated is 21 days. Can you be without your computer systems for 21 days? Let's shift gears to some other fun thing. Let's call it business email compromise. This targets financial transactions. A lot of times title companies, real estate firms, attorneys are involved because they tend to be in the business of shipping money around electronically, right? Wire transfers for the sale of, right? I've recently had to do some real estate dealings, and the warnings I get from the title company, call if you receive a note for to wire money, call us at this number to make sure it's legitimate, right? All of these warnings. So business email compromise scams, BECs, are highly sophisticated. They target employees and roles that handle financial transactions or sensitive information. Attackers use various tactics to manipulate victims into transferring funds or divulging confidential information. It may look like the email is coming from the CEO and it's asking an accountant to do something with money, right? It may look like there's an email coming from a CFO asking somebody else to say, hey, can you get some Walmart gift cards for these group of customers? Okay. Attackers use techniques such as email spoofing, where they impersonate trusted sources, and account takeovers, which allow them to send fraudulent requests from compromised email accounts or text messaging. These deceptive strategies exploit social engineering to create a sense of urgency or authenticity. Again, building trust to then do something that you normally wouldn't do. Financial impact, average loss per incident, 125,000. These funds are rarely recovered. It's really hard to stop wire transfers once they've been completed. So let's shift gears now to some defense framework for SMBs. Essentially, to defend, we are concerned with people, process, and technology, 3 pillars within an organization, but particularly within SMBs. People, employee awareness and training. Let's make sure that we're training our folks. The weakest part of any computer system is a human. And I'm not picking on anybody, it's a fact, okay? Human error is a leading cause of cybersecurity breaches, contributing to 95% of incidents. Highlights the importance of training employees to be aware and recognize potential threats and respond appropriately. Without proper awareness, employees may inadvertently expose sensitive data or fall victim to phishing attacks, making them the first line of defense against cyber threats. Cyber threats can also come in a physical form, right? Letting somebody into an area of the business where they shouldn't have access. And that area could expose computer systems to a physical attack. Phishing recognition training. The city of Albuquerque for many years has conducted phishing training where an email would be sent out. And if based on the email, somebody was led to click through, they would actually end up clicking through and signing themselves and their supervisor up for cybersecurity training to prevent, right, to highlight the fact that you probably shouldn't have clicked through on this, what was otherwise a suspicious looking email. All right. So how much fun would it be to have you and your supervisor signed up for training because you clicked through, right? All right. Employees should be aware of red flags such as suspicious sender addresses, unexpected attachments, urgent requests for sensitive information, or urgent requests for action, right? Emphasizing password hygiene. I'm going to just skim over this for a second. We all hate password management, right? If your organization has the ability to employ a password management software, such as 1Password, the number one, the word password, or LastPass, or others, utilize those. Password management software creates passwords for you. I don't know 95% of the passwords that I use for websites. Well, my password manager does. The only password you don't want to forget is the password to the password management software, because nobody has that other than you. All right. If in fact, real quick on password hygiene, I know that a lot of organizations force password changes every 45, 90 days. The current guidance is to change passwords only upon evidence of compromise. Right? And this gets away from the fact that as humans, I'm going to do something I'm more familiar with. So if in Q1, my password has some reference to that quarter, likely is I'm going to use some reference to Q2 in this next password change. Thus, I'm creating a pattern that might be easy to figure out. Password managers, they don't do that. Okay. If you don't use a password manager software or can't, then use passphrases. Passphrases are much more difficult to guess with password cracking software than are dictionary words preceded or followed by single characters, either forward or backwards in any language, because you can load those into software. Suspicious activity reporting. If you are in a small, medium-sized business that has a fair amount of public traffic, just because of the nature of the business, make sure that sensitive areas of the facility are guarded, and if guests are escorted, and it's not easy to get into. Okay. Social media awareness training. A lot of attacks can come via social media. A lot of SMBs use social media to help publicize their businesses, to interact with customers. That's great, but don't let that be a pathway for an attack to happen. Social media can be used to socially engineer you to giving up information that can then be used later on in an attack. And then again, physical security practices as well, right? Should I have been able to come in and unescorted into this building? Not sure. I didn't check in with anybody, but I'm here, and now you're all in trouble because I got in, right? All right. We're almost wrapped up here. I know where I am on time. Sorry for that. We're going to talk a little bit about some policies. Just these are by the titles. You're getting these slides, by the way, so that you can access them later. You need an acceptable use policy of what it is reasonable for your employees to use the computers for and what's not. If you have employees working from home, but they're using work computers at home, great. They need to understand what they can use their computers for and whatnot. If you have employees working remotely, but they're using their own computers, think about getting them a company-owned computer, pure and simple. There's a variety of reasons that are good, and we can talk about that through the questions. Access control policy. People should have access only to information they need access to based on their role, not based on who they are. Okay. Data handling and classification. Are you handling sensitive data? Do you transport sensitive data? Think about, is that data encrypted when it's moving, right? I had to fill out an application where they needed a social security number. I filled out everything, and in the social security number, I said, please call me at this number for my social security number, because I wasn't able to email that in a secure fashion. So they called me. Incident response plan. What happens if there, not if there is, but when there is an incident? There's a variety of great templates that are available on the internet for incident responses. And finally, remote work policy. If you have remote workers, then again, understand what those rules of engagement are for them to their computer system. First and foremost, they should be using something called a VPN, a virtual private network, to come into your network to do their work. Okay. And that wraps it up for today. Only 9 minutes over, for God's sakes.
Thank you so much, Mark. That was very fruitful.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess just to kind of summarize it, what we're hearing in terms of mitigating that risk is people, process, and technology.
Yeah.
Those are kind of the key components in mitigating some of this risk. As we've seen, it can be very expensive if it does happen, even if you do have insurance. There's various ways of attacks, and proactiveness and knowledge about it is kind of the power. So I'll open it up for questions to the group. If anybody has any questions, please raise your virtual hand, and feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question.
I'll ask a question. Has anybody here been subject to a ransomware attack?
I don't.
My mother-in-law has.
Your mother-in-law has. And
Yeah, they
how long
actually-
did it take for her to recover?
Well, she just gave me the computer and I just had to wipe the whole hard drive.
Okay.
But they had
Okay.
her, they said it, that her Kirtland Federal Credit Union account had been hacked and that she needed to
Yep.
take the money out of her account and take it to the Circle K on golf course to the ATM and put all the money in there. And she couldn't find the ATM.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
thank God she couldn't find the ATM. But my neighbor, she actually lost $150,000 in cash over that,
Wow.
over the scam. Yeah. It was really, I said, what did you tell the bank when you were withdrawing this money? And she said, well, they told me to tell them it was for construction. I said, well, that should have
Right.
been your first clue. But these older ladies, they don't know, you know?
I have a sister who was on the phone supposedly with somebody from the federal bank, right? The Federal Reserve Bank, because apparently the Federal Reserve Bank calls people individually to help them with their consumer banking problems. And she was at the drive-through of her own bank. And she wrote a note to the teller. And she said, I think this is a scam, while she's on the phone with that person who was purporting to be from the Federal Reserve. And she didn't lose any money, but she was within 10 minutes of losing $30,000.
The neighbor, they called the neighbor and said, I'm calling from the FDIC. Your money is not secure. You need to go take it out of the bank.
Oh my God.
Right,
And,
right.
and mail me the cash.
Oh,
Yep.
And she did.
So it'll be
She
secure.
did.
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
oh, that's brutal.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. You're welcome.
I had a really good friend, one of my very best friends, very established restaurant in Santa Fe years ago. I'd say 10, 15 years ago. They called him right during rush hour at noon saying, we're going to shut you down because you haven't paid your P&M bill or something like that. I think it was the P&M bill. Yeah. And I said, Robbie, call me up, dude. We'll never shut you down during. And he goes, you can't afford it. They get you at the worst time because you have to make a split decision and you're afraid if you make the wrong decision, boom, what's going to happen, you know? And so you end up, and I think it cost him a couple grand. And it's like, wow. I mean, so it's business people that are, he's a very sophisticated business guy. It happens when they get you at a really difficult time. This has been very good, Mark. Appreciate it. And I'm glad this is recorded. I want to send it out. Yeah, I'm going to send it out to a greater group of folks about this stuff because it's important. That's scary stuff. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, I have one to add, not quite as impactful monetarily as the examples, but I've actually seen it at 3 different organizations that I've supported where they really get to the employees, Mark, and it's what you alluded to, like pretending to be the CEO or the CFO, and all of a sudden, one of our poor employees gets a message from the CEO saying, I'm in a time crunch, I need you to run to XYZ place and pick up $300 worth of gift cards. And just go get that and then, scratch them off, send me the things, right? Or get them electronically. And so I know literally 3 different organizations where that's happened. I also know an organization where they pretended to be a subcontractor and called into a very well and experienced CFO and said, this is so and so, you subcontract with us, we've changed our account information, and I just need you to redirect the wire to go to this new account. And they come across sounding very professional, right? And they know that they're a subcontractor of you, they know your name, they know. And so that CFO did, and I mean, ended up wiring like probably $25,000 to that, again, wrong account, just because they didn't go through that step of validation. And so I think that's the other piece, is just really training people to just, trust but verify, or maybe doubt and verify, something to that effect.
Right. And for those of us who have, parents, grandparents who are on the computer, but they may not be computer savvy, right? Tell them that companies like Microsoft, like Apple, it is not their business model to call you with a customer service problem, right? With a technical support problem. They don't have enough people. It doesn't make them any money. So it's not actually Microsoft on the phone telling me I have a problem with my computer, especially when I'm using an Apple Mac, right? Things like that. And there's lots and lots of stories. Are there some other questions we want to get to?
I think for the sake of time,
Sure.
We can move. If you could just briefly talk, I know you submitted a case presentation today, Mark. So if you can please briefly talk about kind of that case.
Give me some time parameters so that I can.
Probably about 10 minutes.
You got it, boy, that long.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. That's great. I like that. Okay. So a private educational institution experienced a ransomware attack. The entity was able to restore any compromised data from viable backups. By the way, as a quick side note, when I was with the cybersecurity company RiskSense, we'd get calls, unfortunately, a fair amount of time. Hey, we have a ransomware attack going on. Can you help us? So the first thing I would ask, if it was a person from a technical background calling me or a technical operational folk, I'd say, how are the backups? Are the backups viable? Can you restore? And by the way, the only reason we do backups is to restore. The only reason we do backups is not just to use the backup tapes. It's so that you have something to restore from in the event your primary source fails. Ransomware attack is a primary source failing. If you can restore from a backup, great. So the school was able to restore all the systems from backup. The problem is bad guys had exfiltrated the data before essentially highlighting the fact that the systems were already encrypted. So while the school operationally was not impacted, the data, which included financial information from parents, right, health information of students, all the things that school holds, right, was still in the hands of the bad guys. So the initial demand was for $250,000. Now the school had cyber insurance, which paid for and hired a law firm and a technology company. The law firm and the technology company had worked together already in the past on other cases. The technology company had experience with this particular set of bad guys because there's a lineage to ransomware. And ultimately, the negotiation brought it down to $40,000. Now, here's the fun part. The school had a deductible of $10,000, so the school is going to be out $10,000 in cash. The insurance policy would pay the balance, the $30,000 in ransom, and the technology company managed that payment. Okay. Here's where we get into, if you're fans of the Superman comic series, Bizarro World, where everything is backwards and upside down. I had to help convince the head of school to trust the fact that the bad guys would not release the information and would in fact delete it upon receiving payment. And the head of school's prescient question was, why should I trust them to do something right when in fact they did everything bad up until this point? Everything wrong, right, up until this point. Why should I do this? And the only explanation I could come to was the bad guys also have a reputation to protect. If they want to work further in settings with this insurance company and this law firm, they will honor their word so that they know that their word will be kept for the next time and the next time. Essentially, this has been reduced down to business transactions. Now, the North Korea has financed a fair amount of their economy with ransomware attacks over the past 10 to 15 years, if not further back, right? They fund a fair amount of the North Korean economy because there are so many sanctions from so many governments against moving money in or out or buying things in or out from North Korea because of their stance on a variety of things. But this is one way that North Korea funds their economy. So the school had the insurance, covered everything but $10,000. So what should the school do going forward? Well, cyber awareness training. And actually, it wasn't a compromised email. It was a vendor account. So a technology vendor had an account into one of the school systems. The vendor's password, username, and password were compromised and were able to get into the school's account that way, into the school system that way. So the school agreed to pay the negotiated amount and trust that the attackers would honor the deal, right? Luckily, the insurance paid for everything but that $10,000. And I would imagine the total cost would have been that the school wasn't responsible for, that the insurance covered, was probably on the order of $200,000 total, the law firm, the technology company, plus the $30,000. Okay. So that's, yeah. And thankfully, the operationally, the school wasn't impacted, but it took a lot of it, of senior leadership time to work through this. And I was on the board of that organization. And because of my background, I was involved in a lot of the negotiations with the law firm and the technology company. And it really was just a business transaction at that point. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
That's really alarming.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's really alarming. I actually have heard just a few stories of being in the hospitality industry.
Oh, yeah.
Hotels, it happens quite often.
Yeah.
I mean, you might have heard about the cases with MGM Resorts
Yep.
and Caesars International. So there's various cases where this has happened on such a large scale. And from the customer standpoint, it's super scary because where's my information?
Exactly.
Well, thank you for sharing
Sure.
that. Is there any final questions that we have for Mark pertaining to his case or his didactic presentation here in the group?
Just one thought.
Please.
A question.
Please, John.
When the subject of AI comes up with cybersecurity, there's often a lot of different responses. A few months ago, I was able to see research preview that, boy, indistinguishable voice, indistinguishable video.
Yeah.
Generally available software the last few weeks are scratching right up against that frontier. Quality is amazing.
So the implication is that you're the legitimate person with the control of the bank accounts, right?
Mhm.
And the bad guy gets enough of your voice and enough video.
Because I put out a YouTube video.
Exactly. To replicate that. And suddenly you're sending a video message to a key employee saying, hey, right? Or even interacting with that key employee, right? Is that the
Yes.
implication?
It's a little bit
Yeah.
expensive right now.
Sure.
The costs are coming down dramatically.
Yep.
It's a question of when,
Yeah.
not if. How in the world do we take steps to protect ourselves?
Great question. So what business email compromise often ends up is in the wiring of money, right? Moving money. No single person should be able to wire money out of a business account, first of all, right? It should be 2, maybe 3 layers of authorization. Okay. When I had my own consulting firm, it was 2 layers. I could start a wire transfer. I could not finish it. The person who could finish it couldn't start it, right? So there's 2 layers. Another thing is for SMBs to establish a bank account that is simply there to hold money, either when you're receiving a wire transfer, you receive it into that bank account, and then you shift it over to another account that is not the wiring account. If you're shipping money out via wire, you fund that account with the $100,000 you're going to wire transfer out. And then once that money's gone, that account is back to zero, right? Don't be wiring money in and out of operating accounts, right? Don't be wiring money in and out of accounts where your payroll is held or your general operating account, right? Talk to your bank about specific accounts for these purposes. This is throwing friction into the process for the bad guys.
I hear you describing that, and it sounds like separation of concerns.
Absolutely.
What you do in a bank, heck, what you do with nuclear missiles.
Yes. Separation of powers, right?
Exactly.
You don't want one person having all of that control or access. So, yeah.
So that feels like the approach.
It can help.
Failure.
What's that? You don't want
Exactly.
if you have a single point of success in your business, that individual or that business unit is also a single point of failure,
Correct.
right? It's the opposite side of the same coin.
Right.
So
I'd like to make a comment about
Please,
this.
of
So,
course, please.
Mark, thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
It was very clear, and I especially appreciated how you were able to deliver that heightened sense of awareness for everyone in the room, everyone on the platform. And I think that a big takeaway for me is really having that reoccurring training.
yes.
And I've worked in an industry where PHI was of utmost importance, and protecting that was important to us. And so I think quarterly trainings, I think is good, particularly when it involves your supervisor as well.
And if I may, for nonprofits, I do information security awareness training free of charge. If you're a for-profit, it's a nominal fee. So happy to do that. I've done it for a variety of nonprofit organizations, at least annually. Quite a few law firms that are nonprofit providers of legal services. The law firms themselves are nonprofits. And so take advantage of that opportunity if you can. So
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Rocky, for that final comment. I know that we're out of time today. Unfortunately, this conversation, I think, is very fruitful, and we could continue on this thread. So please don't forget to register for the second portion of this presentation in December, as well as our upcoming future sessions. So I know that Laura posted a link in the chat for some feedback regarding this session. Please do leave your feedback. It's a short form. It helps us to tailor this content and continue providing some great resources through the Business Echo program here at the Hispano Chamber. Our next session topic will be, building a culture of cyber hygiene, practical security. And that is for business owners by ABQIT, Greg Nolan and his team, John here as well. And our sessions, again, will be held on the first and third Tuesday of each month. We do recommend placing a hold on your calendar for these times with a link to our IECO homepage for quick access. And in addition, you'll receive the standard session reminder to join 30 minutes before the start of each session. Again, as an opportunity to share a technological business challenge that you've experienced or observed in the business landscape that aligns with one of our future topics, and a chance to garner feedback around potential solutions. We do ask that you present a case scenario at the upcoming session. To do so, please click the link in the chat box to submit a case form that Laura has placed in there. Please submit the form by downloading it, filling it out, and sending it to us via email at hispanochamberecho@gmail.com. And for any questions, you can please email us at hispanochamberecho@gmail.com.
Some of the questions, if I may, some of the questions and interactions today sounds like they would lead themselves to a good case study. So if you've brought that up, you're so inclined, fill out a case study so that we have some material to talk about in future sessions.
Yes, thank you for iterating that, Mark. And last but not least, the slides will be available on our IACO homepage that are linked to this session, as well as a recording of today's session. So if there's any references that you'd like to go back to, you can find those there. And of course, if any questions come up, please feel free to reach out to us. Awesome. And is there anything, last words that you have, Laura? I think if not, then we can wrap it up.
No, I think it's wonderful. Thank you so much,
Sure.
Mark. That was a very helpful presentation. I think it will be helpful to a lot of us.
I hope so. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for being here, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Take care.